Hello everyone and welcome to BearNews as we take a look at an indie title currently in development in 2021. Project Haven became known to many in the strategy gaming community thanks to a greenlight project on Steam, all the way back in 2015. The game did succeed in its greenlight campaign, though if you're like me, you'll have seen it go quiet fairly soon after that. If we take a look at the discussions, we even see the question as to whether or not the project is dead. Recently though, following the change in name, the developer has begun to show more and more signs of progress. And so now, in 2021, just what do we know about Project Haven? Project Haven is a turn-based strategy game featuring squad management, RPG character progression and weapon customization. And I quote, a gritty single-player narrative set within a dystopian future. Now as we take a look at this title, you may notice that the name of the developer changes as we go through. Originally, they were known as Foresight Games. This has now changed to Code 351. So if you see either name pop up throughout this video, then do know this is the same developer that has been working since the original 2015 greenlight, which if we take a look back at, acts as a great way to show the development of this game over the years. Given the sheer length of development, it should be noted that the developers have done extremely well in keeping the community interested and motivated about this title. And it's been really interesting going back to see their original tweets back in May 28th of 2015, all the way through to the present, keeping their community informed and up to date with developments in the game as they've gone, or at least to the best of their ability, considering there is a large gap between 2015 and 2019 on their Twitter page. But one thing that can be said for certain, the difference in visual style between these two tweets is astounding. Even with the delays, you can clearly see they've been working on this title, continuing to progress it and really home in on their style, not to mention the general graphical improvement. In fact, I would honestly say, having this starker difference between the images really is something to be proud of, and having those stages of development placed so closely together really isn't something you see every day. Looking all the way back at the original greenlight footage, we get a nice perspective of where the game came from, and soon we'll see just how much it's changed. The game is a turn-based strategy game, featuring squad mechanics, weapon customization, and character progression. Now though this game is turn-based, you do have free movement when you're outside of combat, and when you enter combat, you then are afforded a set of action points to decide just what you can do and how far you can move. Now the game does not feature any form of grid, meaning instead your distance moved is decided by the action points available, meaning you'll have to ration your action points effectively throughout each engagement. Now one of the really interesting things to see is that when you are attempting to perform an action in combat, you will actually have the ability to free aim your weapons. Now if you're just going for the body, this isn't really going to make a huge difference. If you're looking to be strategic with your placement, this will be extremely useful. The game does feature wounding mechanics, meaning that if you are hit in the leg, you will be unable to move effectively. If you're hit in the arms, you won't be able to return fire as well, and of course if you're hitting the head, then you'll receive additional critical damage. Now, something I'd like to note before we move on, this is the greenlight footage, and already the game looks great, but these graphics are going to improve so much as we move on. Not to mention, we're going to see some pretty nice changes to the UI. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to verify whether their music is copyrighted, though I have proceeded assuming it is, so do check out their videos because the soundtracks are brilliant. So looking at the current trailers, what do they have to show for that time difference? Well, Haven City, the last city on Earth, is not shaping up to be paradise. Even so, you are afforded some form of reprieve. This little setup of your mercenary base is very reminiscent of XCOM, amongst many other strategy titles. And with that said, we get a clear indication of the different personalities of the mercenaries in this game, with some preferring to spend their time honing their skills and developing their gun control, others preferring to spend time developing their body and honing their sheer brute strength, with our final active field members simply taking the time to relax and talk between missions. Given how this has been described as a role-playing game with a clear narrative all the way back from the greenlight and still featuring heavily now, it'll be nice to finally see how these different characters interact with each other, as each of them have very clear and distinct personalities. Now I will say straight away that these personalities do seem to be a little stereotypical, but so long as it's played out tongue-in-cheek, it can work just fine. There's nothing wrong with using a cliche for your setup, so long as you make the payoff worth it. And the final real things to notice on this screen are what appears to be a commander over by themselves, likely preparing for each mission, somewhat of a bookkeeper to keep the rest in check. And finally, our hacker. Coming back to that stereotype, Bubbles is certainly ticking every box in the book, but from what I've seen, she plays it pretty cute and kinda gets away with it. Coming into the combat, this is something I really wanted to talk about. We can see here Fang preparing to fire on an alerted foe. Now since as we've seen, this game is based around a free-moving system which will only change to turn-based combat following the introduction of enemies, meaning you can use stealth to take up a good position before engaging them. Fang in this case has found himself behind cover, and prepared with a shotgun to lean out from that cover, drawing clear line of sight before firing upon his foe. We can also see from the 3 bars attached to his name, his health is good having received no damage, his stamina is adequate, and his AP is slowly dropping with each action. And here we have my favorite screen. Any form of character customization, RPG stat progression, and loadout management just always makes the best part of any game. But let's break this down. Over on our character panel, we have a fairly standard set of core character stats: agility, constitution, strength, and marksmanship. Now each of these is then further broken down into separate subcategories. For example, over with agility, we have light armor and stealth. We can also see from the marksmanship skills that we have small arms, shotgun, rifle, and sniper, meaning we can really begin to specialize our characters and see some real uniqueness in how they're played. But also something I personally love is the fact that if we look at their agility, currently at 1, their light armor and stealth is maxed out at 0 out of 1. And then if we check our constitution, we're at 3, with our endurance, but is 0 out of 3. Meaning you will need to increase your base character stats before you can then begin to upgrade their abilities any further. Same can be said down here with our marksmanship at 1 and our shotgun level at 1 out of 1. Though it is a shotgun, so I'm slightly less interested. We also have an additional section for skills, though I have been unable to find a full breakdown of these as of yet. Coming back over to the left, we can see that we have 1 out of 4 players currently active in this game. Now this is a co-op title, meaning that you and your friends can team up, each taking control of their own characters as you go about your missions. And underneath it, we can see our loadout. We have a primary and secondary weapon, consisting of in this case a shotgun and a pistol for a sidearm. We also have the inclusion of armor, with different characters gaining access to different armor depending on how you progress them, utilities, which will no doubt become more and more necessary as the game progresses, and you begin to hone in on the style of play that you most prefer. Finally, something that I don't see much of, and also something I'm slightly worried about, we can see magazines, meaning we'll have to take ammunition for the weapons we use. Now personally, I do enjoy games that require you to bring ammunition in order to use your guns, rather than there being an unlimited supply at any point. It's quite an old school thing, and I appreciate that modern gamers may not like it, which would likely be why it's gone out of fashion, though I'm glad they brought this back and they're sticking true to those retro roots. And of course, you can't be retro without encumbrance. Everything you bring will come with a weight, and all that weight gets added up and will decide whether or not you can physically hold it. Perhaps that's why Fang decides to work out so much, just to ensure he can carry that extra weight with him. Now unfortunately, I can't move on here without pointing something out that has been freaking me out from the second I hit pause. The graphics of this game are brilliant, the details are beautiful, and it looks to be a truly stunning title when it will be finished. But I have no idea what is going on with these wrists. Now as an old school title, I really wasn't expecting there to be full-blown cinematic storytelling, but lo and behold, Code 351 has delivered. Pausing here, we can see an excellent consideration of tactical movement within games that's often not included in turn-based strategies. Not only are you afforded the ability to lay prone, take a knee, you can also lean left or right around obstacles. pressing yourself up against cover to gain the maximum advantage from it. This does come at the cost of some AP, but given this is pretty minimal, it's not going to harm your effectiveness too much, and provides an excellent tactical consideration to a game already dripping with it. And of course, since the developer's been promoting the fact that this game does include stealth mechanics, you quite rightly have some nice view cones for enemy combatants, meaning you'll be able to gradually maneuver your characters around for the best position to take them out undetected, or all at once. An action that in squad-based games is always the true challenge to pull off. Positioning your mercenaries, taking aim, and enacting your plan in a single turn to wipe out resistance, game on. And what's great to see is you're not limited to direct confrontation. You'll be able to suppress your foes, destroy the environment for a better advantage upon your target, or even just outright kill them. Essentially, Code 351 has really gone above and beyond to provide as many options as possible to ensure the player is constantly strategically engaging with the map, the game's mechanics, and really considering the situation before engaging. Or just smashing doors open with a shotgun, that works too. Now, given that each character is very individual in this game, the inclusion of a marketplace affords that little bit of customization that otherwise would be lost by having named characters from the start. You'll still be able to decide their loadouts and develop the characters to your wishes, at least as long as you have the cash to back it up. Especially considering you will need to buy ammunition as you go, so don't go wasting those shots. You can see a lovely picture here of Haven set within its protective bubble. Game-wise, this shows the map boundaries and the area in which you'll be enacting your missions, with each mission being selected from this main screen. Once more, they're showing there'll be player consideration involved even in selecting how the narrative plays out, strictly adhering to story-based missions, or branching out and engaging in far more of the side quests, with of course those rewards coming at some risk. The UI in its current state is a massive improvement over the original Greenlight designs. Everything's set up nice and clear, you know exactly where the enemy is, including icons to declare when enemies are out of sight, clear indication as to their current level of alertness, as well as each character's knowledge of the enemies within the region, and the current position of the rest of your squad. It's all looking great, and I can't wait to see how this plays out when the main game is released. But before we get carried away with that, let's take a look at what 351 is promising for the future. We know right from the start there's going to be a variety of different missions, each afforded to us as separate contracts. And given the variety of mechanics in the game, I'm really hoping that these missions will not lock you into a specific playstyle, meaning if you really don't want to engage in stealth, you won't be forced into doing so, though no doubt to some extent that's going to be an inevitability, as player agency in these games really does make the difference to that narrative. Now, something to note from this page that we haven't really been able to see through any of the promotional material so far is this consideration of advanced weaponry mechanics. Now, little things like this are something I personally love, so you'll have to forgive me for blushing a minute, but being able to organize your magazines and chambering bullets while making ensure they're the correct caliber of ammunition, I cannot wait for this. The different types of ammunition and their effectiveness is fairly common now to most of the games of this style, but taking it to that next level of immersiveness and quite frankly, retro styling is something I haven't enjoyed since the original UFO Defense. Now, I've mentioned it before, but I will point it out here, this game has the potential for co-op and skirmish modes within it, meaning you can team up with your friends to go out and complete missions, or have a nice friendly, not so friendly match between yourselves, or even pit yourselves against the AI on procedurally generated maps. But as always, I will state I am a single player gamer, so this sort of multiplayer stuff I'm not really going to know the most about, but even I can admit it's nice when it's included. Hopping over to their Twitter page, I really like what they've been doing with these little mercenary hints and tips, showing the different mechanics of the game while tutorializing them simultaneously. It's a nice little feature for the players who have been following along, as they're going to be able to hit the ground running, giving them a good idea of what to do in all the different situations that will arise, as well as it being a great way for them to showcase all the artwork that's gone into the game, and show off a few of their more prominent characters as they do. And finally, another great showcase of indie devs keeping their community up to date in what's happening. We can see some behind the scenes footage of the motion capture work going into their cutscenes. These aren't only a great way to promote games, but also a really nice way to keep the community interested, invested, and up to date in what's happening, and often showing a side of gaming that many players may not have come across before, but also it gives that opportunity to show off features that were not included within other promotional footage. Finally, we get to see the direct effects of that body-based health display, with additional damage for headshots and the chance to reduce their perception, decreasing their ability to hear and see the enemies, reduced accuracy for arms, reduced movement for legs, and bleeding from center mass. The environment for this game looks brilliant. They've really gone for that retro-futuristic appeal. And quite frankly, if you don't feel like Rick Deckard while you're playing this game, then you may need to rethink your life. And once more, we also get to see the different parts of development, such as if we come over to their map generation videos, we can see an excellent before and after, with an untextured video showing us how the PC will generate different maps within the game, followed by a fully textured rundown of the cityscape that those systems have generated. Now in 2021, Project Haven has received plenty more love coming in from various awards throughout the industry, so I wouldn't be surprised that you'll start to hear a lot more as time goes by. Now there was a demo of this game available back in June of 2020, and it's currently set for a new demo version to be available in June 16th of 2021, released over on Steam, meaning you'll have an opportunity to try this game out before its expected release sometime in 2022. With the game already being featured on Steam's strategy section of the Steam Next Festival. But before you give it a go, what are you guys looking forward to in Project Haven? Which character do you find most appealing? And how will you command the mercenaries of the Steel Dragons? Looking forward to your replies. Until next time, as always, peace out.